Evidence is even raising its ugly head almost daily in our own federal government. A little change in laws, constitutions, and attitudes could in the long term yield death by 1,000 cuts. If it could happen here, it could happen anywhere. And it is. To help undermine our foundations, those who are trying desperately to achieve political supremacy in America also insist, for obvious reasons, on separating church and state, and they are grand masters in the use of deceit in all its forms. They are using an age-old tactic of divide and conquer, employing their chosen weapons of identity politics, disinformation, misinformation, propaganda, and, okay, let's say it more plainly, flat-out lies. Speaking of dividing to conquer, in certain circles history is repeating itself when today's neo-segregationists enact rules and policies that separate us along racial lines. Democrats did that for centuries. Before and after the Civil War, didn't they? We can count now more than 75 colleges that have segregated graduations for blacks, Latins, and even LGBT students. The NFL panders to blacks who are demanding their own national anthem be played along with the traditional national anthem at sporting events. Black people are being convinced they are victims whether they are treated differently or not. But this foments hatred, divisions, and racism by giving them a way to escape blame for their actions, and their lack of individual success becomes somebody else's fault. They don't realize they are being lied to by people who want to tear down the country, and, if they succeed, the country Black Americans live in will fall down around their ears, too. We the people need to understand that. Stop listening to the propagandists. Stop believing what we hear in the cable and satellite news media. Be more suspicious of and selective in those whom we elect to represent us in the halls of power. And be more demanding of their performance. Better yet, we need a timelier and more responsive way to get rid of incompetent and dishonest politicians and or those who use their platforms and positions to further extend the race baiting when it becomes necessary, and when we find out they don't represent our interests. Witt, former Ohio Representative and Speaker of the House, John Boehner, was said by an Ohio voter who once called into a talk show on American Family Radio that Boehner did everything he said he wouldn't and didn't do anything he said he would in his final term of office. That's when the voters need a way to replace such people with an honest broker. If, like Diogenes, we can even find one. It has become a popular tactic among leftists to tear down statues of Confederate soldiers because somebody claims they are offensive. Has anybody on the conservative side of politics torn down statues of General William T. Sherman in Washington, D.C., of Columbia because of what he did to Georgia during the Civil War? As we said above, he made war against civilians, including women and children, by burning their houses and starving them by burning their crops. But, no, nobody has torn his statue down, and he's not likely to be anybody's favorite man in Georgia. By the way, since Democrats seem to believe America is such a racist place, has anybody anywhere suggested we tear down statues of Martin Luther King, Jr.? No. However, conservatives have more common sense than to behave that way. By the way, displays of homoerotic art by Robert Mapplethorpe was found by most people to be disgusting and offensive, too, especially by taxpayers whose money supported the National Endowment for the Arts. But nobody tore down or firebombed the Kennedy Center because of it. Tearing down statues of Christopher Columbus, firebombing police stations and private businesses by Antifa operatives in 2020 who never got prosecuted, and other violent acts is all part of what could be a grand leftist plan to destabilize and weaken America and make people, especially young people, unpatriotic, demoralized people without a love for their country. People who are being convinced by constant and relentless propaganda that America is a horrible place full of horrible white people might put up less of a fight to defend it, which brings to mind a comment made by former KGB agent Yuri Bezmenov. In an interview in 1984 after he defected to the West, Bezmenov said the KGB uses stages to turn a country to communism. One of those stages is demoralization of the people. Watching our whole country fall apart. Established institutions no longer function. Laws are ignored not by criminals, but by George Soros-backed prosecutors who refuse to uphold them. An entire presidential administration opening our borders and turning our border patrol agents into processing clerks and travel agents instead of law enforcement officers, and allowing millions of foreigners into our country in violation of established federal law. Rising crime, out-of-control inflation, and a president engaging in a campaign to destroy our energy industry. It seems that would qualify as demoralizing. What could all of this be about? Think of this. If America can be brought to its knees, a one-world government becomes more passable. The ruination of this country has gone so far now that Fairfax County, Virginia has even tried to regulate the flying of American flags. American flags. In America? A student came home recently with a book meant for children that explicitly describes a 10-year-old boy having oral sex with another boy. The LGBT agenda has become more important to the Biden administration than the safety, morality, international standing, social standards of Americans, and both the stability and integrity of the country. Peel back some layers and notice that immorality is being glorified, patriotism is being denigrated, and Marxist socialism is being lauded as a better way to go. White people were sent to the back of the bus, metaphorically speaking, when it came to COVID vaccines. So, to address social inequities of people of color, the left is creating another social inequity. It's not hard to see Marx, Gramsci, Bezmenov, and the naked communist in this when you know where to look for.